Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Nikon D7000 video functions, show you examples of what the video can do on this camera, go through the different settings of everything on this camera, and just kind of give you the whole spiel about the video functionality on the Nikon D7000. The Nikon D7000 was announced on September 15th, 2010. It was positioned as an advanced enthusiast DSLR. It was designed to bridge the gap between Nikon's entry-level and professional DSLR cameras. The Nikon D7000 was one of the earliest Nikon DSLRs to offer enhanced video recording capabilities, marking a significant step forward from its predecessors. Its video recording and frame rates were just astounding at the time. It could record up to full 1080p at 24 frames per second. It also supported 720 HD recording at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second, providing flexibility for different video requirements. It is an old camera, and the video functionality is definitely aged, but it doesn't mean it's terrible, because it still shoots in 1080p, which isn't bad. It's just not what people would call the industry standard for today. So what makes the Nikon D7000 so special? And why would anyone want to use it to record video? Well, let's talk about it. I'll also go into depth why I won't use some of the features the camera has to offer. Alright, so here is the Nikon D7000, and I'm going to show you the settings that I use with this camera because I feel like it's the best for this. Now, other people may have a different opinion. You may want to use the settings that I don't use. You could try it. I just haven't had much luck with those settings because of the way the camera is and because of its age or whatever. But you know, we all have different opinions, and this is just the way I use this camera because it works best for me. Doesn't mean it can't work best for someone else. Now, in a past video, I have said that the Nikon D7000 doesn't have the greatest video. And, you know, I kind of regret saying that because I'm still new to using this camera and I really didn't play around with it the way I would have liked to. And I shouldn't have said that. But when you do photography, you do learn things over time, especially when you interact with your subscribers. Since I was new to YouTube, I wasn't doing that so much. I was just getting into everything. You learn things from other people. You definitely do. I mean, in this industry, you definitely learn from other people new techniques and just kind of appreciating how things work differently than you thought they did. Anyway, let's get into this thing. So bottom line is I use different settings than probably most people do. Maybe you do. It's okay. What I do use is I like to use the aperture mode on this. And the only reason I do that is so the camera will expose everything for me properly. That way I don't have to worry about my shutter speed. And then I just set my f-stop, you know, for how open I want it. The more open, the faster the shutter speed. Keep that in mind. So I have mine at f4. The lowest this lens goes down to, or the biggest this lens opens up to, I should say, is f1.8. So the only reason I don't do that is because of how the image basically will look. I just won't get the right image that I'm looking for. So I use f4 because it's a nice medium and it's also faster speed for my lens. I do go in between lenses though. I like the idea that I have on this particular lens. It is, let me see if I can show you right here. So I have the focus ring. I also have an aperture ring, but with this particular lens, I can't really utilize it the way I want to. Let me just go ahead and just show you what I mean. So I'm in live view right now, okay? And of course it's a blank screen because there's not much there. Let's see if we can darkness so you guys can see. It's okay. There's nothing there. As you can see, my hand's right there. Okay, I'm not focused. But what I can do, let me unlock this lens. Let's see here. So the thing about this is it's going to say FE, but I can adjust my f-stop accordingly, manually if I like to. It's just going to say FE, so it's not going to really give me a proper shutter speed either, because it doesn't know, the camera can't really function without it being locked up. Now, if you're using a film lens, you can. Let me show you what lens I use. There you are. All right, so I love this lens. It is my ultimate favorite, okay? This is 35 to 105. It is a macro lens, but it's an old film lens. But when I put it on the camera, I'm actually able to change my f-stop on the go. Let me show you. Okay, this makes it so much better and makes it so I can actually use the camera more effectively. Let's see here. Turn live view. All right, so as you can see, it's f/22. If I turn it, see right now, I'm actually going to turn my aperture ring, and it's not locked. This is a non-CPU lens, so the camera doesn't know that it shouldn't have an aperture ring. Basically, it's just not like the other lens. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust my f-stop accordingly without losing my shutter speed indicator. Okay, so I can definitely, lower it to f/22 or open my lens up to 3.5, which is awesome. That is the beauty of having a film lens, and this is an AIS lens, so it basically will work with my f-stop indicator on the front of the camera. Now the way this works, let me turn off my camera, and I've showed this in my other video with this lens, and if you guys want a more in-depth review with this lens and this camera, I do have a video of that, and I'll put that in the description below. But as you can see, this little nub right here moves back and forth, and that's meant for AIS lenses. Of course, it's meant for other lenses as well. So it just works. So I typically like to use this lens with this camera. It's just a really great combination. Of course, you can use other lenses. You just won't have the ability to change your f-stop as effectively. Now, let's see. If I put this, now of course that's with aperture recording. I'm kind of testing this too because I want to make sure I'm correct. So let's put it in the manual. Okay, let's put it into manual mode. There we go. Now we're in that. We're in manual mode. So what I'm going to try doing now is, see, it still doesn't work. Even in manual mode, I could put this, it's in manual as well on the camera right there. It just doesn't work. It says FE. So therefore, I'm not able to use my shutter speed. Whereas when I go back, my shutter speed, let me put it back, hold on. It's kind of tough to or when I have the camera right here. So, okay, now it's back in f4 or f22 mode on the lens. As you can see, that little, I don't know if you guys can see it under there, but there's an f22 mark. It's orange. That means it's locked in and ready to use with this camera. It's for CPU lenses and all that stuff. Anyway, long story short, is in order to change the shutter speed, I have to turn the camera back to where I'm using only the optical viewfinder. And you'll see on here that I have an f4. Now I can change it to 2.8 or any lower that the lens can go. I'm just going to put it on 2.8 just for this demonstration, and I'll turn it back on. And as you will notice, that the f-stop is now 2.8. Okay, let me turn my shutter down so you guys can see what's going on. All right, 30 seconds is the lowest that this can go while you're in live view. 30th of a second, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah, I typically use my lens in manual mode when I'm doing video, and I'll tell you why right now. Okay, because what ends up happening is the Nikon D7000 is notorious for hunting with focus. It just, for some reason, this camera just doesn't like to keep a good focus on a spot. Now, you can kind of adjust that with the fine-tune autofocus setting. It does help it, but it's not perfect. And that's because of the servo in it or something. It just doesn't like to stay in one place. And let me give you an example for right now. So let's go ahead and put my my focus in AF. All right. So what happens is it goes in and out when you're focusing something. Okay. So right now I have it on. Let me see if it's on the right mode here. Full-time autofocus. So AFF. And let me see if I can make you guys see that better. Okay. So anyway, it's on AFF. Okay. And now what's happening is it's going in and out. Every time I move the camera, it's gonna, you know, when it's recording, let's see, usually it does it. Let's go ahead and record and try it. Okay. So now I'm recording, and as you will see, yeah, the camera definitely can do it in stationary mode, but if you were to, say, change focal points, this is not working the right way. Okay. You'll see it's actually pretty noisy. And when it adjusts it, it doesn't do a quick focus. It goes in, out, in, out. And it takes a while to actually focus on a subject, which is, you know, not the greatest. And it will do that too. So this is quite noisy. So what I like to do is just put on manual mode. Right here. Completely. And I'm recording my video right here. And I'll just basically put my lens all the way into infinity. Now the reason I do infinity is because, well, that's the longest point of focus. So I just make sure everything that I'm filming when I'm using this camera is at a pretty, you know, not a far distance, but enough distance where I know that the camera is going to be able to be in focus and show the image correctly, okay? because I don't want to really use autofocus if it hunts. This camera doesn't have image stabilization, and it just makes it that much harder to get the video that I want. Now, what else? Let's go into the menu, and I'm going to go into the movie settings. Let's see, can you guys see this okay? Hopefully you can. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and make sure this is working for you. All right. So here's the movie settings. I'm going to go into movie quality. I always use 1080p at 24 frames per second, high quality. Okay? That is what I will use. I don't want to use 720, 30 frames per second. I don't want to use 24 frames per second, 720. The quality just isn't that great. Now, if you were to use it for social media, you know, like Instagram or something, that's okay. But even that is higher quality these days. So I would just stick to 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second, high quality, okay? The next, your microphone. Well, your microphone sensitivity is going to be depending on what you use for a microphone. You can use the in-body microphone, which I do not recommend, unless you are just, of course, you know, it's not terrible, but I would definitely recommend using a higher quality video source. Now, if you don't have a microphone, go ahead and try it. The only problem is that you have wind problems. If the wind gets on your microphone, like your microphone is literally right here. If any wind hits that and you're recording, you're going to hear a big loud sound that's not going to be very pretty, okay? And that's adjustable, so you're going to definitely adjust it. You can even turn it off if you want to. Where you want your video to go, what your destination is. It tells you how long you have on your memory card. So I have 5 hours and 38 minutes and 40 seconds for my memory card. Manual moving settings are on, so I can definitely change my manual settings. I definitely want to keep that on at all times. Another thing, let me go back into live view, I feel is important is that when you are recording, you get a nice whopping 19 minutes to record. Let me show you that. Hold on. There you go. Hold on. Okay. There you go. You should be able to see it now. You get 19 minutes to record your video. So that is pretty substantial. That's pretty good for this kind of camera because the sensor usually gets hot, and what can happen, this thing is driving me nuts. The sensor can get hot, and it could, you know, basically just, it will stop recording when it gets too hot. What else am I missing here? Like I said, you have full-time focusing. You can also use your different menu. So when you are recording, the nice thing about this too is that you can actually kind of get a grid, which is really cool because then you can actually line up your image correctly when you're filming. I like to use a gimbal. That's just me. And that's because I like the idea of having my image stabilized. Now, I don't have the best gimbal for this camera. I need a better gimbal in anyway, so I could use it for my XT1. Because this camera doesn't offer any kind of stabilization, you could, you know, you just put it on a tripod and you'll be okay. You know, this camera is just great for B-roll and other things like that. And if you're just going to stand in front of this camera, that's not bad either, you know. What else, guys? You can use your AE lock, of course, while you're recording for your shutter speed. You do have your focal points, of course. Now, this is kind of, when you're in manual mode, it's just kind of like a guide at this point. There's not too much else. Let me go into... You can also use a remote control with this camera, which is very nice. And then, of course, you can change your color space. There's different ways you can use your color, your picture control settings, of course. And then, you know, you can change your white balance and all that as well. So everything is pretty good. I mean, you could even use your, you can change your matrix on here as well. I have it on spot metering. When you use spot metering, it just measures a small area of light compared to the whole entire image. So that right there can help you as well if you're in a low light setting. This camera is pretty noisy when you get it up to higher ISOs, I would definitely say. So when you get up to, like, say 1600 high, you know, it doesn't, the max I would go probably is 800, but even that's pushing it with video. It's a different monster compared to when you're taking a photo. It's just grainy, you know, it's just, it's not the best. But you can make it work if you really, really had to. So there's even a microphone right here as well. Well, let me go ahead and show you some other things with this camera that I think are important. And yeah, move on in this video. So even using the Nikon D7000 focus mode, you can see that it has a hard time keeping track of its subject. Now, given that it is shaky, it definitely does have a hard time as well, but the full-time autofocus on the Nikon D7000 is just not a feature that I use at all, nor is a facial detection unless I'm using it for photography. It just doesn't work with the video, not to my liking anyway. Now, if you guys want to give it a try, I'm not to say that you can't. Go for it. See how you like it. See what it does for you. They might be able to utilize it in some way to be creative. You never know. But for me, it just isn't something I'll be using in the near future. So in conclusion, I would say that the Nikon D7000 definitely has a very nice video feature. In fact, its clarity is definitely wonderful, and the sensor portrays a beautiful image. I would say that unless you're going to just do B-roll, or just sit in front of a camera that doesn't use the focusing, then this camera is fantastic. Otherwise, the autofocus feature just doesn't work very well, at least from my perspective. You know, you could use it in different ways, of course, but I feel that you can get more out of using the manual focus setting on this camera and definitely utilize it to being beneficial for yourself. This camera is amazing, and I love the way that it takes photos. That's what I use it for mostly. But since I have tried the video function on this camera, it has inspired me to try more, to go further, to expand its abilities and work harder to make it work for me. Some important features to know about this camera is that the Nikon D7000 does not have image stabilization. So if you guys see that I am stabilized in this video with this camera, it's because I put it on a gimbal kind of thing. Like, this is what this little mount is for. It didn't work very well because it's a crappy it's a not the very best. It didn't work very well because it's not the very best kind of gimbal. In fact, I should probably get a different one if I'm going to do this. But this isn't my main camera that I use for stabilized video. I use my Osmo and my Sony. Anyway, so, you know, I really do think this is a great camera. It's not stabilized though, and the zoom, not the zoom, but the focusing feature of this camera just doesn't work very well. You would have to have a silent focus motor lens, and unfortunately, from what I know, the silent motors don't function with the Nikon D7000 correctly. But I want to show you guys a lot of different things that you can use with this camera, of course, and get more into that kind of gear thing for sure. And maybe someday I will, you know, get that lens and show you how it works on this camera for fun. It's a 18 to 55 millimeter S. It's like a GS lens or something. I'll have to put it in the comments below, or I'll put it in the description below and show you what it is. But it's like the S motor lens, which is basically, it just stands for silent. Anyway, oh, I hear a peacock. That's pretty cool. There's peacocks out here in the wineries. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something of the Nikon D7000 and the way that the video functionality works, and why you might be able to use it for your, you know, whatever you need to, if you just have this camera and no other camera to use for video. If you guys like this video, please make sure you hit that subscribe button in the corner, and please make sure you like this video. Make sure you share it to anybody who might be interested in knowing more about this. And yeah, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you guys being on here and staying and watching this and being part of this awesome community. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks, guys. Bye.
If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel to get notified when new videos get posted. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider checking out some of the other videos on the links at the end of this video.